Hi everyone, this is Dr. John Demartini. I'm sure you've met somebody in your life that you felt was empowered and others that weren't so empowered and they felt entitled. I'd like to discuss the difference between entitlement and empowerment and why entitlement is not really the solution for mastery of life. When you're a little baby, you're somewhat dependent on your parents, mother, father, maybe preacher, teacher. Then you grow up a little bit into the teens and you start becoming dependent on your peer pressure, your community, your city, your state. You grow up even older, you start to be dependent on the world in general. Eventually you get to a point where you go, you know what, I'm me. And you transcend all the dependencies and you mature. In our life, we go from dependency to independency. And some people stay entitled and dependent longer than others. And they stay, in a sense, immature. In fact, if you take a child and you give it everything it wants, do everything it wants, if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets a tantrum, and you give into the tantrum, you'll keep it a little baby and you'll make a juvenile dependent, and it'll get entitled and it'll throw tantrums, it'll go, throw his arms up in the air and do all kind of things in order to get what it wants, and it'll stay an entitled little brat. Well, this happens not only in little babies, this also happens in sometimes teenagers, this happens in even adults, this happens in families relative to the society, it happens sometimes in societies relative to other societies. When it's not being accountable, and it's not being empowered, and it's not being responsible, and it's not dedicated to independent contribution, it stays entitled. And this holds back individuals, it holds back teens, it holds back families, it holds back societies. Empowerment is what matters, not entitlement. It'll hold you back. It's like a saprophyte or a parasite on society when everybody's basically expecting the world to take care of them and they're not contributing. You have to contribute to the world and make a contribution somehow in a sense of productivity if you think you deserve something. I'm always amazed at how people sometimes expect something for nothing, and it doesn't work that way. So the only thing that's fair and sustainable is fair exchange, doing a contribution and getting reward. I tell people to make a contribution to the world and make it the greatest contribution you can, and you can receive the greatest rewards in life. I want you to be altruistic in service. I want you to be narcissistic in having what you want in life. But you're not going to have one without doing the other. You're not going to get all the rewards in life without being of service to life. So instead of living in the world of entitlement like a child, why not be empowered? Why not just face the reality that you're going to have a contribution? I think it was Kennedy that says, it's not about what the world or the country can do for you, it's what you can do for the country. I think that sums it up really nicely. So instead of sitting there and supporting entitlement, why don't we empower people by giving them accountability, giving them responsibility, etc. I remember the Rockefellers, when they were doing their charities, they realized that every time they gave charity to somebody and just gave something for nothing, it didn't work. They couldn't rob people of dignity, responsibility, accountability, and productivity. And if they didn't rob them of that, and they gave them incentives and responsibilities, they grew and they made a contribution to society. So embrace the responsibilities and accountabilities and productivities and dignity of being accountable for life and doing something extraordinary with your life. That's why I tell people, if they live by their highest values and empower all areas of life and they make a massive contribution, they'll live with empowerment and they'll leave their legacy and make a difference in the world instead of being a little juvenile with their little entitled behavior, throwing tantrums and expecting the world to take care of them and living in la-la land, and then all of a sudden having a major wake-up call when all of a sudden the world doesn't want to keep taking care of them. So give yourself permission to be empowered and not live like a juvenile, entitled baby.